Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Maya, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
All right.
I saw your email.
Yeah, sorry. It was like weird. Some of those things were things we were going to do anyway. We just have to do them a little faster, but
Fine.
let's clean up stuff. Um, Trying to figure out if I can change my name. Let's see.
You can, if you do the three dots, I
Yeah.
think. I wish you could change it before you log in.
I know, and also I don't really understand because in other meetings we have that sort of practice space before we have to go into webinar status. And here it won't let me do that. So I
Oh,
don't really understand why.
okay.
Um, Hopefully other people will join us. How are things going with you?
Oh, good. It's a little bit just tricky this week with no school, but was able to, I think, get everything in order for tonight.
Yeah,
But it's good.
good.
And I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Great. Yeah, we were, I don't know. I think I'm going to retire as an event planner after this one. But we were over at Merrill Auditorium today, just making sure we were ready, and I think it'll be fun.
Cool.
Sort of excited about it and really looking forward to it being done.
Yeah.
But it was energizing last year, so I'm hoping it will be
Yeah, I've
again.
heard it's good.
Yeah. I'm just closing some windows here so that when I have to project, it's a little less nutty.
Send some texts right now. I don't have the student phone numbers, but maybe I'll get those.
Oh yeah, I just saw that
No.
my Mina sent a message saying she can't come.
Okay, great.
Um we're not really supposed to communicate with them via phone, but
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Well, I
well,
guess if they need to send me a message,
I mean, I think if it's a group text, that's better. I don't know. We should.
yeah. Well, they can always email me.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we need to have three board members to make this happen
Um,
because there are four of us on the committee.
right. Well, yeah, to vote. Although the truth is that, I mean, I guess you're going to want to vote on the calendar, but it's not really any kind of binding thing. It's just trying to get to consensus as a group. So I don't even know if you need to do it as a formal vote.
But can we have the meeting
I think you can hold a discussion without quorum, but you can't vote without quorum. That's my understanding.
for the committees? Because I know the school board meetings, we don't start until there's a quorum.
Yeah, I think we've had other committee meetings where we just had a conversation. But oh, here's Sarah. We can get her to give us the official determination. Why didn't that work? Note. Did you have, oh, there you are. Okay.
Hello. Hi,
Hey,
Sarah.
Florence. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay, that's it. We've reached our quota of Sarahs for this meeting.
I'm sure we could find a few more. Uh,
We could. Um,
Hi, Yusra. Hi.
Hi, Isra.
Sarah Lenz, do we need to have a quorum to hold the meeting or just for voting?
you can't, well, you can't for sure cannot take any votes. without a quorum. So you can run the meeting, but in an ideal world, you'd have everyone, or at least. Who do you know for sure people aren't coming?
No one's told me for sure.
Okay.
Oh, Nikki is not
Yeah.
attending.
Nikki is out all week
Okay.
for her son's wedding.
Wow.
Legitimate reason.
Yeah. Hi, Zach.
Hey.
Welcome. Okay. All right, I am going to get us started, I think. Is that okay with you, Dr. Warren? I can't hear you. Your mic's up.
Did somebody already start recording?
It says recording.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's do it.
Okay, great. Okay, I would like to call the Policy Committee of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Monday, August 25th, 2025, and we are meeting in an online format. Today we have myself. I'm Maya Lena. I'm an at-large member of the school board. And is it better if I introduce people, or do people prefer to introduce themselves in these? Does anyone have an opinion?
It's okay if you introduce us. I
Okay.
don't mind.
We also have committee member Yusra Ali, board chair Sarah Lenz, student representative Zachary Lee, and we have director of strategy Dr. Sarah Warren. Did I get that correct this time?
It's close enough.
Apologies.
Chief of Strategy and
Chief of
Operations.
Strategy and operations. All right, I'll get that correct next time. Okay, and let's see if we have anybody for public comment. I don't see any attendees in the room, so I'm going to skip over public comment. I'm going to close public comment. And let's see.
Chair, Ali has.
Oh, great.
Hey guys.
Hello, board member Ali. Okay, so we also have Policy Committee member Ali. Thank you for joining us. We were just closing public comment as we don't have any attendees in the room.
Okay.
Okay, and let's see, with regard to the agenda, what we're doing today is we are going to have a discussion again about the proposed policy committee calendar, and then we will also have a vote on that. And then Dr. Warren just sent an email to the committee members. There were some changes. And so I think maybe it might make sense to have Dr. Warren start with that, just so that we're all on the same page about what the updates are.
Sure. Let me see if I can manage to project. Can you see the draft policy agenda now?
Yes.
Okay. So two changes since last week or last meeting and what was posted initially online. One is that IJNDB, which is the student use of school issued computers, devices, and the internet, was scheduled to be discussed tonight, and we moved that to the September 8th, just to give us a little more time to work with our legal team to get that in order. The point of that one is to align it to our updated JFCK, the policy on student use of personal electronic devices. And I believe will be a relatively straightforward thing for us to process once we get the legal term, wording worked out. And then the other thing that shifted is, if you look at October, I took some of the D category policies and moved them up here. They had been slated initially to potentially look at in the spring, but I moved them here because we have just learned that we have some policy related things that we need to do as a result of a sort of standard review of our special education work and our grant from the IDEA federal funding. And part of what the findings of that were that we need to tighten up a little bit in some of and update some of our purchasing and accounting related policies and procedures. So that's what you'll see on the 27th, the DJR, DN, DI, and then DKC, DKCR. Most of those are just updates, but DKC, the travel policy, is for reasons I'm actually not sure about. Historically, we don't have, so we need to have the lawyers help us to write that one. So I proposed it for October just to give us enough time to work with the lawyers to get all of that in order and ready for the committee to look at. And that also will allow us to meet the requirements of the state review, which mandates that we have all of the things that they've raised addressed by December. So those were the changes, but Chair, if you would like, I can walk through some of the other items here, or maybe the committee has already had a chance to look at them and would just like to ask questions or discuss. I'm happy to do whatever.
Sure, I'll just open it up for questions right now just to see if anyone has questions on those specific changes and moving those items up. Okay, I don't see any questions at the moment. So Dr. Warren, if you don't mind going through a few more items for discussion, that would be really helpful.
Sure. And can I ask, Chair Lentz, are you keeping an eye on the attendees? Looked like somebody was moving people in.
I can't do that.
Not me.
I got it.
Somehow you were all just getting in maybe through your did you get a link, a panelist link?
I clicked the link on Diligent and then I was like admitted for a second and then it said it moved me over to panelist. So I don't know.
Yeah, I moved you over, but I didn't get everybody else. So the only reason I'm asking is because when I shift to the document, I can't see the attendee list and I don't want to leave anyone stranded there. So why don't I'll present a little bit and then I'll look back over at the list to make sure there's no one waiting in the waiting room. Okay.
Also, if you wanted to just make me co-host, I can keep an eye on that.
Amazing idea.
Yeah.
Forgot that I could do that. There we go. Thank you. You have superior Zoom skills. All right, great. So just to kind of walk through this, and this is just a proposal, so fully up for discussion and revision by the committee. The general thinking behind this structure there were several objectives. One was to make sure that we do things that we have to do, either because it's required by law or because it's required as in IJNDB, where we have to do something to bring our own policies into alignment with each other, or things that we have missing that are really important. So GBEBB, the staff conduct with students, is sort of a glaring omission, and it actually is referred to in our sexual harassment policy, but then it's like a bridge to nowhere. There's no GBEBB to link to, and that is a very important one. And I will note that Chair Lena has asked me to expand that one. So initially we had that as maybe 2 sessions, but we have built it out over 3 committee meetings just to give everybody time to really review it, talk about it a lot, get public comment. So you'll see that's in 2 meetings in September and then proposed to go into October. The ACAA is something that we have to do. There has been a swinging pendulum between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, and now back to the Trump administration. And so they changed the rules and we have to align our policy back to the federal requirements. So that's what that's about. Those will be changes that are at this stage relatively straightforward because it's just going back to where we were previously. JICIA is one where we have a wording issue, use of something that's not very culturally sensitive, but it's also an opportunity for us just to go through that whole policy in more detail to make sure it really it gets at what we need and want. So a lot of the things you'll see up front proposed for the next few months really are things that are required in one way or another, and that's what you'll see in bold. I've
Dr.
also
I
got,
have a question, if you don't mind, about those things that, you know, for example, the harassment and sexual harassment policies. Is it possible to see in advance, like the proposed changes?
yeah.
How far in advance before the meeting can we see those sorts of proposed changes, since it seems like we kind of know what they are required to be?
Yep. I mean, in general, we try to get things to the committee by the Thursday before, but with some of these, I think, especially given if the committee approves a calendar and we've got the proposed policies for review laid out all the way through the year, that gives us a lot more lead time with the lawyers than we were working with last year. And I think will allow us to get proposed revisions to you, you know, with a lot more lead time. And this one, I think I need to double check with them, but I think we can probably get it to you next week and maybe sooner because it's not I don't think it's a huge shift. GBEBB is going to take a little bit more effort, but we will be drawing from examples from other districts, so it's not completely out of, you know, the air that we're trying to pull something.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I'll note is that there are a couple of places here throughout the year where I've proposed to put in just an update. So it's not an actual review of policy, but just giving the committee a chance to hear how something is going that the board or the committee have touched on in the past. This is progressive discipline. I probably should have renamed that now because I think that the term that's getting adopted by the folks that have been working on that is positive behavior response. And that was the board, the superintendent and the PEA coming together to create a task force that worked on developing this positive behavior response protocol. So staff have been fleshing that out more over the summer and getting ready to implement it at the start of school. And it seemed like it would be a good idea to have them come back and share with the committee what that looks like.
Would that be something that, since we have this drafted calendar in front of us, we would need an amendment to change the text on there, or is that something that can just be reworded? Can be reworded, Chairlins. Great.
Yeah, and Chair Lentz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, I mean, I assume the committee will vote on this just as a matter of, you know, coming to consensus around it, but it's not like you are voting on a policy here. This isn't sort of binding. And that's the other thing I should say and be clear about is that I expect that this will, even if we try to get out ahead of it, as we are right now, it will change during the year because something more will come our way that we find out that we need to do. And my understanding is that the other committees are also having some conversations about the policies that fall within their respective realms of work and whether there's anything they feel that may need to get looked at in order to make the work in, say, finance or government, you know, government affairs, public affairs. They may have something, or curriculum, they may have something that they think needs to be updated in policy. So we probably should be thinking about leaving room for those. I would say like mid to later in the year. This is already pretty heavily loaded with things we have to do. And so I would say leave some room, but probably not at the start of the year for other stuff. Again, so actually let me note the class sizes is one that Chair Lena has raised as an interest. I know that Dr. Upperman has also talked about it in the past. And so that one, and then the policy down below 1124 IHHB on gifted students were ones that the chair had requested that I add to the calendar. And Chair Lena, I don't know if you want to talk about those now or come back to them after we've reviewed the whole draft.
Yeah, I just can say a couple things. One is that like Dr. Warren said, Dr. Opperman and I have been discussing quite a bit about class sizes, and we do not have a policy that states what a class size must be in terms of, student to teacher ratio. We do have a practice. We have a best practice of what we do in Portland, and it's different from other districts. There are other districts that do have policies about that, so it's something that we thought we could sort of investigate to see if it made sense for Portland to adopt something like that. And then with regard to the gifted students policy, it is something that hasn't been updated. I think it was when it's 1990 something was when that was last updated. It's pretty vague and brief in terms of what the policy is and in terms of what is being done within the schools. I think it varies from school to school and it's pretty loose. And so that's another one that I wanted to examine and see what other districts are doing and how we might be able to best support those students in our schools.
Great, thank you. Okay, so moving on, I will go to November. The extreme temperature policy is a new state legal requirement. We actually had done quite a bit of work on that last summer and then this summer, not from a policy point of view, but just in terms of our own internal procedures and practice. We have certainly been taking note of the change in climate and how that's having an impact on our operations, and particularly during our summer programming. And we've got students both that are participating in summer activities and rec programming, but we also have students that go to school pretty much year round through our out of district special education programs. And the challenge this summer was that we had students that were riding a bus, maybe being on it for as long as 45 minutes or more, because by the time you pick up all the students in Portland and then get down to Saco to the Margaret Murphy Center, that's how long the ride ends up being. And on the days where the heat index was well into the 90s, we got very concerned. And so we did some quick creative reconfiguring, and we found a way to split the students up between air-conditioned vans. But those are the kinds of things we're having to navigate. And then, just figuring out, even if at a certain point, what is the point when we say we're just not running programming on that day? And the other thing I'll just note there is that that's a very tricky decision, because a lot of those students will just be going home to a air conditioned space anyway. So it may even be hotter than what they're at in a school. So we need to spend some more time looking at other examples of that and working with our legal team to figure out what that policy should be. But we do have to get it done.
And one other note is that at the last board meeting, the facilities director said that now the school department is going to be responsible for HVAC. That's like a new thing. And so it might be something to discuss with, I don't know if we need to discuss that with the facilities department or with the finance, personnel, and operations committee as well.
Yes, we could do that. So the facilities team has been involved in these conversations that we've been having. It sort of bridged across lots of different offices because it affects so many different areas of work. So they have been helping us think through this, and we did get this year we got a bunch of added thermometers for classrooms and buses and that kind of thing. So they're involved. I think that the HVAC piece is actually something that gives me hope because already it started to function better and more reliably, just in terms of that team's ability to manage this and be on top of it. It's not to say that all the systems are working perfectly yet, or that we have what the equipment we need everywhere, or that it's, all up to date. But they're on top of it, and we have, a vendor that's handling it. So yes, they are involved and would need to be involved in this, and we're pretty hopeful about the HVAC component. Some of the other ones that are highlighted here are really prioritized because of safety concerns. So field trips and excursions, and use of private vehicles for school business. Those are things that have been coming up quite a bit. And I can say just in my own experience, were things that were causing me some concern. where it feels like often under, challenging circumstances and people trying to do the best they can figure out how to do for students and with positive intentions are doing some things that are, in my opinion, coloring outside the lines a little bit in terms of safety. And so I think we need to just revisit these policies and tighten up a little bit to make sure that we're all clear on what the safety protocols are. And it kind of ties back to this question of GBEBB as well. We just need to be sure that there's nothing that our staff are doing in connection to students and families that crosses a line and could be considered to be blurring boundaries or that are appropriate, and not wanting to create any appearance of impropriety or, as an example, or create major liability issues too. So, as an example, I've heard some situations where staff are putting students in their private vehicles and transporting them or going to pick them up because they're late for school, and, they're trying to be helpful. But that's the kind of thing that we need to make sure that the policy is written in a way that's super clear, and then we're going to have to work on enforcement. Again, a lot of it's done out of positive intent, but not really okay. So that's why those are in there. And then you see in November, and this could all be changed, but this was just a proposed date to have folks from the networks come back and the schools share a little bit about how the implementation of the JFCK policy is going. Everybody's getting ready. Oops, I can see I don't know if I can correct that. I can. Everybody's getting ready, obviously, to implement. We don't expect it to be perfect. We know there will be challenges and things that have to be overcome. And so I think that come November, we should be able to, reflect back, document some of the lessons learned and what needs to be shifted moving forward, and for the committee to hear about, how that policy is getting implemented. The school volunteers is very similar to what I was just talking about, just making sure that we've got everything kind of tighter from a policy point of view in terms of vetting school volunteers in particular, and making sure that the standards for volunteers are at least as rigorous, if not more so, than what we've got for staff. And that we have, the resources to support that vetting process. Gifted students, we've already mentioned. When you get into the student transportation services in December, those are all connected back to some directly and some more tangentially, but it's a whole suite of policies that connect to transportation and vehicles. And it seems like an opportune time to look at those, because we will be having conversations about, as part of our strategic initiative 5.4, how do we take our current transportation system and approaches and transform them to be more equitable, more student-friendly, more efficient and effective. So that's work that Ben Lesavoy, as our Director of Transportation, is leading in close collaboration with me and a number of other folks that he's started to pull in. And we will ultimately do quite a bit of public engagement around that. But there will be policies that we'll want to review in connection to that strategic work. And then in January, we really just start getting more into cleanup of a lot of policies. And what I did was just take the first several books and go back and figure out which ones were whatever hadn't been reviewed or updated in the last 5 years, I included here. And it just really goes policy by policy through each of the books. The only things that sort of jump out here that are outside of those cleanup efforts are things that we have to do. So ICA, the school year review and approval of the school calendar, we need to get that done, and we need to do it early in the school year so folks can plan. And then you'll see similarly, when we get to June, we would be we would, sorry, I'm just double checking to make sure that's right. We would be looking at our comprehensive emergency management plan, which the committee has to approve and then the board has to approve. I am going to suggest, though, that I think I may have moved that one meeting too late. We may want to move that to the 5/11 meeting, just to make sure that the board has the time to review and approve it before the end of the school year. And yeah, so most of the other ones you see here are just the cleanup efforts. And then, as I said earlier, we will potentially have a few other things that come up during the year or that the other committees ask us to take a look at.
This is great. Thank you so much for going through all of that. I think it makes a lot of sense that we have everything front loaded with, things that are needing to be updated right away. And then I really like how we've left space to, move things around if we need to later in the year and just kind of trying to clean things up. I don't have any discussion from myself. I don't know if any board members or anyone else has anything they'd like to ask questions about or share.
I have a question. What if like sometime something comes in where it's not on the schedule and it's a policy that we have to discuss? I think that's happened earlier this year a few times where something just comes up.
Yep. Then I would discuss that with the chair, and we would build it into the agenda as, as appropriate based on the calendar and what the requirements were. And then we would let the committee know that we had to add it to the agenda. So it's relatively fluid. I mean, from a sort of planning point of view, we just have to make sure that the agendas that we post are, that they're posted the Thursday before the meeting. And so that's our requirement, and we have some degree of flexibility. I mean, we're trying to be organized enough so that people know what's coming down the pike and we're not doing it last minute. But if we do need to add things, we can add it up until that Thursday before the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Lenz?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. As we were walking through these policies, I realized that we don't have a practice of any financial implications of policy changes and how to bring those into the conversation. So I would be interested in thinking about what that could be, like with the, when we get the edited version of a policy, is there any fiscal impact? What would that look like both in the short and long term? With some of these policies, I think that there will be fiscal impact. So I think we should just include that. And again, Dr. Warren, like, I don't know what that looks like for us. That isn't something we've historically done. So if you need a thought partner or something like that, I think it makes sense. And then the other thing is around the gifted students policy. Anytime we bring that up, I always just like to make sure that we say out loud that like that policy is directed towards a very narrow definition of what a gifted student is. And we recognize that our student population is gifted in a million different ways that is not captured in that policy. And I would definitely support looking at that policy to see if we can add language around it. And, the ways that that policy also measures that is mostly advantage towards students that are not multilingual or not learning another language. So I just think that, yes, there's a lot in that policy I think that we could potentially look at and adjust to our district that isn't historically caught both, in regular school policy, but also in the state laws around it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Lenz. That's really helpful.
In terms of your point regarding the financial impacts, I think that's a great point. So I think that when we're preparing to present a policy revision or a new policy, we can just make that part of the presentation. And then the other thing you made me think about is, which I think sometimes we do probably well, but we should just be more intentional and consistent about making sure that we're talking about any kind of implications, be they implementation or political equity. All of that really ought to be kind of laid out for the committee and the board when we're looking at something, especially if it's more than a cleanup of a policy.
Sorry, and just one more thought on that, Dr. Warren. I know when we looked at the, what was the, JFCK policy, we kind of like used a template around like the purpose, the blah, blah, blah. I do think that there's like also space to do that within policies as we're changing them to give more context for policies as people in the public are reading them and as new board members come on. So I would also encourage us to think about that as well.
Yeah.
Which I think could be, you know, part of that, thinking about the implementation or any other impacts that could come up with policies.
Yep.
Anybody else? Yes, student representative Lee.
This is just a question about something that was just brought up earlier, and it's just really a tangent. But, you know, while I'm here, I was just wondering about, I think you said that the term positive behavior response is being used, like, instead of the term progressive discipline. Is that correct?
That's my sense of it. I have not been directly involved in this, so I'm actually interested to dig deeper into it myself. But that is my understanding, is that that's the direction that it's moved in part because I think there was, well, progressive discipline is actually a very common term in education and is not seen to be a negative term. I think a lot of people were sort of struggling with it and finding it to be something that was potentially that it had seemed to have a negative connotation, even if that's not how it was intended.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering, like, if it is trying to maybe move away from the potential non-negative connotation of just like the word discipline. Like, does it mean behavior response to all different types of behaviors that will create the most positive outcome, or is it trying to recenter it as being more about responding to students' positive behaviors than reacting to their and punishing them for their negative behaviors? Like, I feel like you could interpret that new term either way.
Yeah, I didn't see that Dr. Atkinson-Duino was here, so I defer to her because she's been centrally involved in all of it.
Oh, okay.
I'll go ahead and just clarify that for our, what we had been calling progressive discipline matrices, the term that all grade spans are using is simply behavior response protocol. So we do our whole system, we talk about being a positive behavior intervention system. So that's kind of the bigger thing. But whenever we get to this level of what we're talking about as far as responding to behavior that is like inappropriate for the whatever context you're in, right? We are just talking about a behavior response protocol. A couple things that came up as we were doing that work. One, whenever we talked about progressive, every time in a public conversation, I think that it was brought up, we had folks from our public who had questions about what progressive means in terms of, does that mean a liberal discipline policy? Does that mean we're not actually doing anything? So that question came up. And also in terms of translations, it just was kind of proved difficult, honestly. I think that was really our main thing. So we just tried to be as clear and kind of just unemotional and just, it is a behavior response protocol. So if there's certain behavior, we're going to respond to it, and made clear about what are those expectations that admin will respond to particular behaviors. And I hope, does that answer some of the questions there?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I was just curious, and at the end of the day, it is a behavior response protocol. It's a pretty good name for it. So
right. So I also thought I would check in. I know we have a presentation, so I see the date of September 8th. And I think what we would be able to present an update on is how these, how the rollouts of these behavior response protocols at the grades, that we're rolling out tomorrow, how that went and what our kind of PD or collaborative meeting plan is for the year ahead around checking in on those. So if there's, because that will be very early in the year, or just wanted to check and make sure that that update made sense for the committee. Or if there was something more that you were hoping for at that point.
I think that makes sense. I'm wondering, after the update for the committee, at what point will the full board get an update? Like, what's the time frame and thought process for that?
I don't think we've put it on the board calendar yet, and the committee, I think, could guide that to some degree in terms of when you think it might make sense. And then we also probably should look back at what's on the board calendar already so that we don't overload a particular day. But I would assume sometime after this presentation happens. Because typically the committee conversation would shape how the staff then adapts or updates the presentation to meet the board's needs.
I know this is not a policy that we're writing, but is there a policy that aligns with this protocol?
Yeah, I don't remember the letters off the top of my head. Is it JKA?
I mean, there are many actually
Right,
that,
that's
I mean, are the appendix document that we have has like a number of policies that really cross into this realm a little bit. I think there is like a code of conduct policy. I don't know that I think would be definitely be one, but there's many, I think that would be applicable.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it would be helpful at that presentation. I know you're saying there might not be a lot to report on since it'll be really early, but maybe talking about how, like, what policies we do have in place and how this supports the policies that we have for the students in the school.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think it'd also be probably helpful for you to see where some of the overlap is.
Great.
Yeah, and just to note that there's a lot of intersection with special education law and policy there as well.
Chair Lenz?
I was just going to say that now that we are making space every month for committee updates to happen at the board meetings, like if you wanted to give a basic update, but then in your report where you ask board members for action, like one could be, are there any other questions for around the policy thing that then you could integrate to the full board level presentation, but also like if there aren't further questions and we can just direct the board to come and watch the recording of this update, then that would be awesome. And I would love to get us to that point that like we're presenting things in committees and then people are using the committee videos to catch up on things as opposed to having to do the presentation twice. I know that will not be possible in all circumstances, but that's like a dream.
Okay, great. Board member Ali.
Yeah, I thought I heard the term being good behavior response protocol rather than just behavior response protocol.
No, I think that was my mistake. I said positive behavior response only because we use PBIS, which is a common term and an approach to supporting positive behavior. But Dr. Atkinson Dwina corrected me that the protocol itself is called behavior response protocol. It doesn't have the term positive in it because it's more of a neutral thing.
Okay, well, I wanted to add this thought that I had. It sounded really good. And the reason why is when there was some type of negative terminology that's attached to any type of discipline or any response to any type of, behavior or whatever, the negative connotation can follow the individual, and psychologically actually do something. For example, when people are charged with certain crimes and whatnot, and it establishes like this is who they are, like, so and when the issue is really not that bad. But anyways, I'm okay with it was just like a idea when that's fine.
Board member Yusra Ali, go ahead.
So thank you. Two of my questions have been answered. But does the behavior response protocol include special education? That's my first question. And will the committee be able to give recommendation or maybe changes to the protocol once it's presented to us?
So, sorry. Go, oh, Angela, you're still there. Sorry, I
Yeah,
can't. see.
sorry, I believe that the behavior response protocols are being shared with the board. I know Dr. Scallon did collect them for that purpose, so I expect that they will be shared with folks. I do want to let Ali know that, you know, whenever we talk about just how we approach behavior in general, we really do try and talk about like how we teach behavior, how we start out with, and how important it is to talk about, you know, the positive behaviors we're trying to create. And so it isn't, I think if you see all this work in part of that larger positive behavior intervention system, this is just one small part of us one small part of that, but just do note that. I think like throughout the year, the way that we have been talking about it, Dr. Ahmed and I, is this is our first year having each grade span have a behavior response protocol. So a couple of things that came out of the task force were the importance of having more faculty engagement throughout that process. And so we expect that there will be times where throughout the year, we will kind of collect feedback from faculty, from school leaders, and look at ways that we can tune that document and improve it for the upcoming year. So I think, I don't know, it's not a board policy at this point. I think if you guys had feedback, we're happy to take it and let us know how, you know, if there are questions that it raises. But so that's how we were thinking of how we would improve on the work for upcoming years.
And thank you for that clarification.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have anything else to share before we take a vote on this calendar, proposed calendar? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands and I'm not looking at the screen. So if anyone raises their hand, just someone let me know. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the proposed calendar for the policy committee 2025-2026? Thank you, Board Member Yusra Ali. And do I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Ali. Are there any questions from the committee on the motion? Okay, seeing none, is there any public comment? We don't have any attendees, so no. Is there any discussion on the motion? Maybe adding an amendment? Okay, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of the motion to approve the policy committee calendar 2025-2026. Chairlins, do I call the roll? Yes, okay, great. Do I call myself? Okay. Okay, Board Member Lena is a yes. Board Member Ali.
Yes.
Board Member Yusra Ali.
Yes.
And Student Representative Zachary Lee.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. And we had everyone voting in favor. And let's see. That's it. They pass. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. All right. And I believe that is the last thing on our agenda for tonight. Let me just double check. Yes. Okay, great. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Said motion. Or, yeah.
Thank you, Student Representative Lee. And is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Ali. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting? Great, this meeting is adjourned at 6:46 p.m. Don't forget that we have meetings at 7:30 p.m. Enjoy your break and see some of you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, thanks.
Bye.
Good night.